my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 Yes, I am light. I am light. I am not the mistakes that I made or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race, my soul inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Ooh. I am light. I am light. Yes, I am light. I am light. I'm light. I'm light. Yes, I am light. I am light. Ooh. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star. I am a piece of it all. I am light.
That couldn't have been a more perfect song to lead us this morning into the continuing exploration of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. In this idea, right, that we are light. You can feel that power of that. And there's another part of you that instantly says, who do you think you are? Right? Like, I am light. That is the essence of who I am. And where do we argue with that the most? Inside, right? Now, we might recount other people's voices who've said, who do you think you are? But even they, we can guess, were struggling to know that they were light. And so the essence of this Gospel of Mary Magdalene and these other Gospels that were hidden from us are that they really hone in on the fullness of our being, that we are, yes, 100% human, with our fears and our doubts and our judgments and our joys and our excitements, and we are light. There is an eternal aspect of our being that if we knew, as we know more fully, it steadies those temporary, fickle aspects. And again, to be clear, when we often talk about it in terms of the ego, that is not something to get rid of. It's not something to alienate. We need it to function. And as I said last week, just try alienating your ego and see how that goes. It does what it does very well. But we want to recognize the ways in which it causes us to think and act that cut us off from the fullness that we are. And we want the fullness that we are, that light, that eternal aspect, that love, to be in the driver's seat, right? And our ego can serve that, can serve us in this realm, but not defeat us and be us in an exaggerated way. So I want to just remind us that in studying this, we are reclaiming the fullness of our own nature and our own spiritual authority. Our exploration of what remains of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, because it has all of the original 3 copies found have the first 4 pages removed, which we can only guess was really important. And some people didn't want us to know it, so we're going to piece it all together as best we can. There's still plenty in it that we are exploring. Megan Watterson, the author of Mary Magdalene Revealed, writes that Christianity's present premise that we are all equal in the eyes of God, or the good, as Mary called it in her gospel, leveled the fervently held beliefs in society that were based on sex, race, property, wealth, and citizenship. That sounds familiar. Where might we be had these hidden gospels been allowed to balance the story? And here's the other thing about them. And I want to say this, that we look at the story, the teachings of Jesus, the person of Jesus, as a wisdom teacher, one of many. And so it's not as though it's him or nothing else, right? But there's a message there that I think there's a reason that it has lasted. And in part, some of those reasons, unfortunately, have to do with the implanting of great fear by the system of the church, that you know, if we get you afraid enough, we got you. And that's certainly not what I'm wanting to talk about. So, but what we have in these early Gospels are actually writings of the people that studied under the teacher. Mary Magdalene was with Jesus and trying to grapple with this teaching that he was giving. And so they are pure texts, if you will, before, church and power got involved to decide which ones could come forward and which underlying story they wanted to tell. And friends, I'm sorry to say, but the story they decided on was one that limits us, that perpetuates us in this cycle of fear, and that puts off our salvation, if you will, for another life. What these Gospels talk about is you can know something now. You can live from a knowing, from an integration of this spiritual nature now that will elevate and illuminate your life experience now. I'm more interested in that. How about you? Okay, good. But you're going to have to, here's the hard part, and this is the other reason why perhaps the way the church went about it worked, because there is that within us that would just much rather you just tell me. Just tell me the easy way. Tell me what to do. Let me know how it's going to end. Good, I'm great. Well, again, how's that working? You know? Like we have to take accountability, we have to be responsible, we have to do our part. And so part of this discovery is simply, our co-founder Charles Fillmore said it best, that spiritual transformation begins with self-awareness. I remember reading in that and going, are you sure? Tell me there's something easier. Something that I don't have to, But it's through, this is the other thing that Mary's gospel and the Gnostic gospels in general, I'm using that term loosely, bring to awareness, is that, gosh darn it, I just lost my thought. It was really good. I'll come back to it. Let me go with this. The Gospel of Mary wants us to see that we are not just this body, we are also a soul. This human body, however, is the soul's chance to be here. And this human body, whether male or female or anything in the spectrum in between, does not delimit or determine what's possible for us. Yeah. So we are trying to reclaim the fullness of both our humanity and our spiritual nature, and to recognize that we are 100% both, and give gratitude for this opportunity to be here, for this physical body, not demonize it, but also know its limitations and know that we are not that. And there's part of us that already knows that, isn't there? There's part of you that when you get still, when you connect with something inside, recognizes that you are more than this. You're even more than your name, and more than your role, and more than your other role and your other role. And so what is that? These gospels that call us inward are wanting us to spend time with that, and that it is through that going inward that the soul, that part of us that is eternal and true, can finally rise up and be heard and felt and experienced here and now. So the fuller message that emerges from reclaiming these early texts is about claiming the fullness of ourselves and what's actually contained within us. Mary's gospel stresses the importance of integration of these two natures. And so what remains of her gospel in large part is a template for how to navigate the human experience, as Cynthia Bourget calls it, the egoic navigating system. How to learn to navigate it, how to know the way it trips us up. And she delineates, or kind of gives us a map with these seven powers of the ego, these 7 climates, these ways of thinking that get us way off track, have us defeating ourselves, harming others. Last week we spoke about the first power of darkness, which refers to the ego's capacity to lead us into thoughts and feelings of separation, to believe on some level we are utterly alone. And you know what? That is true of the ego. It can't really conceive of the depth of our connection with spirit or with each other. So we notice, okay, that's the limit of that. That doesn't mean it's not true. So we spend some time deeper within to work through all the evidence we've built for why we're alone, and pretty soon we realize some of our own, you know what, S-H-I-T. I spelled it out this time, you're welcome. So the antidote that we discussed last week for this was to take a moment, we did it in the context of Mother's Day, to recall all the people, all the circumstances, all the synchronicities that have occurred in our life that got us to where we are. Might not have been our mother or our father in the fullness. Hopefully it was. Right? But that to connect us with, we are not doing all of this alone. And to begin to notice the goodness of others in our life and to open up to that and to recognize the goodness that we can bring to each other. This week we're talking about, it's a little convoluted at first, so stick with me. Take a deep breath, stand up if you get bored, whatever you got to do, because it's good. The second power that we're talking about today is, it was in the gospel, it was called desire. They've switched it. Megan Watterson, along with Cynthia Bourgeot, I'm sure I'm not saying her name right. Sorry, Cynthia. Have rephrased it to be the power of clinging or craving. Because there's a natural desire of our heart that we don't want to alienate. That's the purpose of why we're here. That's really trying to live through us. So they just did that for clarity's sake, right? Craving and clinging. Often referred to, you can think of as sort of being where you're not. Right? There's part of us all the time that is recounting something, reliving something, resenting something, worrying something, planning something. Another way to think of it is controlling. There's a part of our ego that wants to do that, that's really good at it. And so the call here is to recognize when we're in that and to take a breath. We'll go through what we do in order to reconnect, to disengage that from having so much power over us. There's a scripture from Mary Magdalene that I'm going to share with you that really, Megan Watterson sort of points to it as kind of explaining, if you want to go metaphysical on us, with me. How about this? I'm going to go metaphysical on you. Let's be clear about that. How the ego came to be, right? Now, it's ethereal, so you have to just let it land with you. And then why it's so challenging, why our experience can be so challenging. So I'll go ahead and have Carly put the scripture up for you so you can see it, hopefully. Here it is. Matter gave birth to a passion, you can think of ego, which has no image, you'll notice is capitalized, because it derived from what is contrary to nature. And a disturbing confusion then occurred in the whole body. We'll get to the second part in a moment. So what this is saying is matter, our body, in order for physical life to occur, we created, this egoic system was created to navigate this experience. But it doesn't come from what is true of us. Image is capitalized because we are what? Made in the image and likeness of the source of life itself. The fullness, all that we could imagine God, the divine, to be. We are of that. But this temporary way of navigating through this temporary experience is not of that. And so it causes a contradiction and a conflict. Now, pretend you've never heard this before. Some of you've never, this is the way it's worded here is new. But this is a wisdom teaching when people are trying to understand what are we doing? Why is this so hard? Who am I? And who's in charge? And so they're trying, both Mary and Jesus and the other disciples are learning this to understand there's nothing ultimately wrong. You've just gotten confused. You've gotten caught in the what's that word? Friction. There it is. So learn that. Learn how you get caught, and you can get yourself uncaught. And there is that within you that is true and everlasting. And here's the other thing: the ego is not. When we die, when the body dies, so does the ego. Thank God. But the soul, the truth of us, remains. And so it makes sense that while we are incarnated in this body, don't we want to know the depth of that part of us that is eternal and true, even though the world is saying, buy this potion and do all this stuff and hate these people? So it goes on to say, become content at heart, while also remaining discontent and disobedient. Indeed, become contented and agreeable only in the presence of the other image or nature. So we begin to do the work to notice every time we get tripped up and come back to our truer nature, to that eternal aspect of love within us. Mary's gospel talks about the way that we navigate these two natures is through the eye of the heart. That's the feminine aspect that has been missed. That receptive, feeling nature. And I don't know about you, but anytime I have thought about God and all of this for 20 years, thought myself bloody. That's an overstatement, don't worry. But I can think, I get so excited about understanding it. But until I feel it, and until I call upon it in the times when I'm feeling like I can't do it, it hasn't really been real. And so that's the other aspect of this that we're calling upon. Yeah, you might have to face your fear, face what you find in there in order to free the fullness of your soul and your spirit. So Megan Watterson, you can show the second slide there, Carly, rephrases this by saying, if you put the teaching in as I just described it, matter gave birth to a passion or ego, this craving, which has no lasting or eternal image because it derives from what is contrary, what is lasting. And that is what has caused your confusion. I know it's wordy, but do you kind of sense it? And there's nothing wrong with you. And the ego's not horrible. We're just recognizing its limits. And in part, as we're wanting to grow and know ourselves, the fullness of our nature, and call upon that to meet the times that are upon us, there it happened again. Gosh. We need to be grounded in it all the more. And so where do we hear this? The soul speaks in the silence. And I don't know how much louder our world has to get before we really believe that. Because it's pretty loud. So we're going to go through a little exercise with that, with this idea of how, I should say this too, this idea of clinging and craving. It's really about, as I said, wanting to be anywhere but here, wanting sometimes to be anyone but us, wanting sometimes for other people to be other than what they are. Can we change any of that? No. So, in order to, when we recognize that we are clinging and craving and wanting to control, we stop and we get still. We've been learning this very simple and ancient, Megan Watterson refers to it as the ancient prayer of the early Christians, to stop and to take a breath, to connect back inward, and to discover what awaits you there over and over again. Because here's the thing, there's a wisdom there that knows how to navigate, that can show us the way without making us bad and wrong. It's not all about, oh, you sinners. No, it's about remember, and reconnect. So, we're going to take a moment to have an experience of that, really as an opportunity for discernment, how we can begin to notice when we get caught up, and how we can recenter. And I'm guessing, if you're like me, it's a lifetime practice. So don't think in 5 more weeks you're going to have this wrapped up. Once we go through the 7 stages, take a deep breath. Move your body as you need to so you can be present for this meditation. Bring in the bowl that invites us to take a breath, drop from our head to our heart. Sort of a practice of self-emptying. So we take a breath. We prepare ourselves to be still for a moment. So get your body in a comfortable place, in a space. And taking a deep breath begins to relax the body, calls the mind to this moment. So we notice our physical body. It's a way we become present. And we breathe into our heart space. We breathe into this place within us that is receptive, that feels this highest truth of us. And from that place of openness, we simply ask the question, what have I been clinging to? What have I wanted to be different? What have I been trying to control? And without any judgment, we just receive. The wisdom of the heart. What have I been clinging to? And what can I let go of? How can I begin to release my grip? How can I call upon the presence and the power of love that dwells within and all around me? To trust that I can release that grip. And taking another breath, who would I be? How would I live? How would I go about my life differently if I can release my need to control that? And ideally, you're breathing into a sense of greater freedom. And so take note of what emerges for you here. Take note of how you can remember it. And how you can most especially remember the feeling that arises from clinging and craving and controlling. That's your clue to take a breath and to remember and to reconnect. So taking a third breath, we just offer a moment and a feeling of appreciation for our ability to know this and to choose differently, to carve a way back to the fullness of our being. To begin to allow life and ourselves and each other to be as we are, and to trust that what we are is ultimately good.
I forgive me. I forgive me. Everything that I've been holding on to, I let go. I surrender. I surrender. I'm ready for my change. I'm ready for my change.
This is the time in our service where I remind us that all that we do here at Unity Spiritual Center Denver is made possible by your donations. Today there are baskets in the back where you can leave your check and cash. There's also a QR code in your bulletin, and your council members have a few announcements around that as well for how you can set up an electronic gift.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all by myself, and I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient, and I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you feel discouraged,